to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start.
Do I look good?
I guess you do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another meeting of the C++ Digital Signal Processing, JUCE, and many other things study group. And with me today, I have Fotis. Hello, Fotis.
Hey. Hey there.
And also on the call are Bo and Cwits. How are you all doing?
We're fine, thank you.
Great.
How are you?
How are you? Yeah.
Good. I even opened Xcode this time.
Awesome.
Sounds interesting.
Well, it's not terribly interesting, but I did open Xcode just to see what things looked like. And of course, it wanted to download gigabytes worth of stuff that I probably will not need, like development simulators for iOS. I don't need any of that, but it downloads it anyway and doesn't give me a choice. So I installed everything it wanted me to install, and I opened the code base again. And I still understand most of what's there, which is surprising to me. And I started just formatting the code in a way that I like more, because I find that that was soothing and it was a way to get my hands dirty in the code again. But I didn't develop anything new. I just looked at how I implemented that cross-plugin instance communication thing using global variables, and I was like, okay, that's relatively straightforward. And then I stopped. So I don't have a lot of updates on my part. And I guess that has been it. That is my update. How about you all?
Got a few.
Me too.
Not so much as much C++ as I'd like, but I got some JSFX going. Should I start?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, share screen window, start sharing. Is anything happening?
Yeah, we see ourselves actually, because you have us in your screen, but we see you. Yeah, yes, we see your screen.
Oh, cool. So I've been doing a couple of different things. One is let's see, where should I start? I've been thinking of this thing where splitting an audio band and distorting the lower bit.
Are you showing anything to us? Because it seems like the screen is stuck on Skype.
Yeah, looks like.
Yeah.
How is this?
But we have a nice picture of Fotis.
Yeah, we can also see Fotis big on the screen. How about that?
Oh, it looks like better now.
Switch to only video, show me now.
Oh, we see you interacting with the Skype window. So perhaps when you started the screen share, you only shared the Skype window? Could that be the case?
Yeah. Probably.
Share, start share.
I can see myself moving.
Switch screen or window. Isn't it this one? Is that better?
Yes.
Can you see my Reaper?
Now we see Reaper and we see code and we see a tone generator and whatnot.
Yeah, excellent.
Bunch of stuff.
Yeah, so what I've been doing is everything working properly? Yeah. So, like I said, I split an audio signal in 2 bands and distorting the lower bands in order to create a sort of exciter for the lower frequency range. So it works like this. For a regular sine wave of like 100 hertz, this is the overtone series that you get. And you can, so as I change, this is pushing the formula or algorithm, if you will. So, and this is what the final size, blue is the unprocessed signal and yellow is the processed. And this is lowering the split frequency. So this is what happens when you do that.
So you have a cutoff frequency that is being controlled by this.
Yeah, by the upper one, and this is the drive. So I'm pushing the audio into the. It's a 10H distortion. If you're familiar with that.
Yeah, we recently used it on a different context. We used it for manipulating images, but yeah,
Oh yeah, use it. Yes, you did. Yeah, I finished this yesterday, and I haven't tried it on any audio yet, but it's working as intended according to the test instruments. And just as a proof of concept, a split frequency, I'm pushing it. Here's the overtone series, and as I enter like 6K, there's a bit of overtone, but there's no aliasing. So the point is this is not going to alias down, and you can push this quite high, and there's no extra frequencies down in the lower range.
And are you doing something extra to prevent aliasing, or is it just by virtue of not pushing these frequencies into the distortion?
Yeah, the latter one. I'm not pushing frequencies into the aliasing area. So that's the thing. And what I'm going to do with this also, the intention is to sort of get overtone series transformer-like overtones for the lower ranges. So it's kind of an exciter for the lower ranges. And I'm going to introduce a cut off with the bass. So as it's cutting bass, it's going to add overtones. So possibly that it's going to be something that's going to sound good on smaller speakers. That's the intention. And like I said, I finished this yesterday, so I haven't tried it on any audio, but it works according to my idea. So that's it.
Yeah.
That's the first one.
Hang on, don't move on to the next one. I want to explore this further. So what is the filter that you're using? Are you do you have like a low pass filter, and then you push that into the distortion in parallel with the original signal, and then you add everything back up? Or do you have some sort of crossover?
Yeah, it's a 6 dB high pass and low pass. So here's the code for it. So here, the 10H function, courtesy of Tail, is this one, and creating new variables for the sample values, and then the low pass and the high pass. So SPL low, here's the gain, where I'm pushing the simple gain into the 10H formula, and then lowering the gain accordingly. So that's what's happening. It's quite a simple concept. And what I'm intend to do is invert one of these and see if I get a low pass, and then get it switchable so I can have it cutting the lows. And let's see what happens.
Nice.
So that's it.
All right. And do you have another one? You were going to say that you have another thing.
Yes, I actually have 3 things I'd like to discuss today. So, and I also created a weird low pass. Let's see. Why isn't this? I have too many windows open.
Oh, this is a bug with the EQ curve analyzer. Sometimes you have to flip them.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong channel. Sorry. So
I'm just saying that the EQ curve analyzer does have a bug sometimes. The bottom one functions like the top one and vice versa.
Yeah,
you have to reload them.
When you can if you press the auto, it resets itself.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I discovered it by accident. I did just like you described it. I reloaded it, but the moment you sort of bypass it or do something else, it switches like you. But you can reset it with the auto and set its gain, etc.
That's cool. You need to update it though. Do you see on the bottom right?
Says, I've noticed that.
You have the old version. You have the old version.
That's fascinating to me because this plugin must work with a similar concept to what I need for the auto mixer. The two instances need to communicate. One needs to send the train of impulses, and the other needs to listen for that and plot the graph. So I never ran into this issue myself, but it seems to indicate that the plugins start, and when they start, the first is going to say that it is a generator, and the second is going to be in, I don't know what it's called, the reading mode. Anyway, it's going to be plotting the graph. But it seems like sometimes the plugins are started in the reverse order, and then it doesn't work. And then you click on auto, and it's going to try and assign itself a function again, and then it works. But to me, that indicates that the plugins can be initialized out of order, which of course makes sense. The host would try to allocate the plugins and initialize them in parallel, and then the second may be initialized first. But I do have to keep that in mind when I'm doing the auto mixer, because it may mess some things up if I have any kind of assumption about the order of instantiation, which I don't think I have right now. Because I don't have any kind of sender-receiver situation. Every instance is a sender, and every instance is also a receiver. So it's not a server-client, it's more of a pub-sub kind of thing. But still, interesting to keep in mind.
Absolutely. And also, you said a Reaper-specific issue?
I think so, yeah.
Does it work like that in any other DAW?
I didn't run many major tests in other DAWs, but in Reaper it does happen. I will try doing it in Ableton or Bitwig and tell you. Also, could you please click on the show face button to see what your filter is?
Here's my face.
Oh my God.
Well, that's usually because there is some latency involved. Typically, that's what's happening.
There is that latency button, and also
that's a good one. I haven't gotten this far with this yet, so there's other issues with this thing.
Oh, maybe it is not latency then, because typically you click on plus and it starts to get better, and then it unwraps, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of the filter.
It seems to be getting worse in this case, so it may not be the latency. It may really be the phase characteristics of this filter. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. This is a wild experiment for a low pass. High pass. I have a stickler for high pass filters. So is
it affecting the left and the right speaker slightly differently?
I have one where this is a regular 6 dB IRR filter, and this is the with the one with the sort of flacker slope is my high pass. But the biggest issue with this thing is that the moment when I sort of start, every time the audio starts, so every time it resets itself, the algorithm goes haywire. And it's fine. The higher up in register I go, it's not as bad. But I've been testing a bit, and when I render the audio, there's this gargantuous click at the start of every render.
Oh yeah.
But I was thinking, I'm guessing like the formula is resetting or zeroing out in some weird way, but I'm thinking of just adding teeny tiny amounts of noise to the samples so that the formula is doing something as it starts playing. I'm not sure if that would work. The thing is, does anyone have any other suggestion for maybe fixing this?
Well,
maybe
I have one thought, that is, adding noise may not help, because in fact Reaper is already adding noise. It's not really noise, but Reaper is adding a tiny value to every sample that comes in to deal with the normalization. So
okay,
maybe,
oh yeah, we discussed it in the previous video.
Yeah, maybe adding noise will not help, but you can try. And another thing is, every time you hit play, it will reset all the values to 0. The variables will all be reset to 0. So maybe one thing you can try is on the init block, you can set a variable. It's a magic variable that will tell JSFX to not do that, to not reinitialize the plugin every time. And then you may still have a glitch right as you load the plugin, but then it will not glitch again every time you hit play. Something to think about. And it's just, I think you just have to set a variable called x to no init equals to 1. You can try that. And other than that, I think that perhaps the most principled solution would be to try and figure out why this is happening and prevent it from happening.
Oh,
yeah, that variable, x extension no init equals to 1. That's what you want to set.
All right. And I will make a call. Look. This might work. Huh. It actually works.
It works.
Dude, we fixed it.
Oh,
Leandro fixed it. Leandro fixed it.
No, you did.
Awesome. Then there's the phase issues. But I'm gonna try this some more. What it's doing, I have 4 different high passes that is squared. They're squared with each other in the sort of the power variable, and then the square root of the square root of that. So squared 4 times, and then the square root of that for square root of that.
It's the geometric mean of the samples.
Something like that, yeah. So the idea is that whatever frequency might be poking out, it's going to damp that a bit more. So it's not really dynamic EQ or dynamic high pass, but it might work a bit like that. I need to test this a bit more.
Yeah, in fact, the code that you had there was doing multiplication, and it was doing well, it was doing exponentiation, but it was doing that with constants. So I may be wrong about this, but it seems to me like you may be doing some operations that are linear. So just looking at the frequency response is not, it's not the correct thing to do. You can only do linear analysis on linear algorithms, and it may be the case that this is not linear.
No, it's not going to be linear. So this is since this is a sort of test tone, it's going to be one thing. When there's dynamic material like audio going through it, it's going to behave differently.
Yeah, interesting.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what I'm saying is this graph that we are looking at, the graph that you had on the screen right above my head, is a graph that you can only make sense of the curve you see if the plugin is linear, if it is some sort of equalizer or something of that sort. Because if it is not linear, then this graph may be lying. And that may explain the phase reading that we had. Maybe there wasn't anything wrong with the phase. It's just the graph we were looking at isn't appropriate for this kind of plugin. And
yeah, exactly. Sorry.
No,
for example, if you load the reverb instead of an equalizer, then the graph goes nuts, both in the phasing and the plugin. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's not.
I should try that. You load a reverb and check the Bertom analyzer with the reverb.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta try that.
Interestingly enough, if it is a convolution reverb, it is linear.
Oh yeah. I tried that with Melda Productions and Convolution Easy.
Cool. Well, the intention is it for it to be non-linear. So this test tone is going to show one thing, and as it gets audio material, it's going to do it's going to behave differently. And that was the intention. That is the intention. And like I said, I need to test it a bit more with actual audio. But the ones that I tried it on sounded nice.
Yeah, people are here on the chat. Hello, Mage, and hello, Jas. And Jas, I don't know. Jas is saying it's linear since it doesn't contain any non-linearities in feedback or feed-forward. I don't think so. I think it is non-linear because you're multiplying two samples. If you were adding two samples, I think it would be linear, but Bo is multiplying samples. And then taking the power of something is also kind of multiplying samples by itself or by other samples. So I would say that this is non-linear because of that. Same as the 10H that we saw a moment ago, the 10H function is definitely not doing any kind of feedback or feed forward, but it's still non-linear. I mean, it's probably the canonical example of a non-linear operation because it's the function that you sometimes use to saturate an audio signal like Bo was doing. So that is my take on that. But I am interested in learning more about this and seeing other tests besides just this curve.
I think the real audio, just trying it, like I noticed that with the other stuff I've made, just using it on actual audio and trying it week after week after hours.
Yeah, and also I guess you can do some sort of put a sine wave through it and see if there are other frequencies coming out. That is proof that it's non-linear. And you can do sine sweeps and whatnot. Yeah, there are different ways of testing for this.
Yeah.
Oh, and one final thing I have noticed with Bertom EQ curve analyzer is that it's sample rate dependent. So if you go to Reaper's preferences and set the hardware sample rate to 96, then the little slider on the bottom right where it says 24.0 kilohertz, it's gonna change to 48.0, so you can go even further. It's just like a Voxengo span.
Okay, cool. I want to go lower than 10 though.
Oh yeah,
I pass. I want to know what it's doing at DC.
What if you click the logarithmic button? Can you go lower than 10 now? No.
Nope.
You have to ask him, Bertom, about that. Because, yeah, you're right. You need to check for DC offset. It's the bane of my existence. Damn, good to see.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Any questions?
How do you come up with these ideas?
Oh, man. I have no idea. I just want to get rid of. I want a good high pass. That's one thing. Because I do, since I'm a singer, I do a lot of vocal editing, and so low bass, low mid is always an issue. I'm constantly like EQing things in the low bass and the low mids, and I have a deep bass voice. So that's it. And the other one, again, trying to make. I was. That's a good. You know the sausage fattener, the sausage.
Oh yeah, by Dada Life. Yeah.
I was watching a demo of that. I was thinking, how do they do that? They must be oversampling, and it's this. And I was thinking of the different knobs on it, and I was guessing that one of them was a frequency split, and they're running it through like a TAN-H algorithm or something. So I reversed engineered the sausage fattener in my head.
Oh my God.
So I may be completely off on this, but that led to this splitting the audio and then running the lower ranges in the through a TAN-H. Which is useful. Yeah. Like you create, and also the transformers do that. They create overtones for the lower register. That's why they sound good. One of the reasons why the transformers sound good. They add extra harmonic material for the lower registers. So that's why hence me coming up with this weird code.
Oh, speaking of harmonic adding distortion, are you familiar with the Chebyshev distortion?
Not distortion, on the Chebyshev filter I've heard of.
Yeah, well, it can be used for this. Anyway, Chebyshev is using harmonics, right? Our good friend
Is that
Chris.
A name or is it a principle?
I'm not sure, but I know that our friend Chris from Air Windows used Chebyshev in the NC17 distortion, and also another one called Pafnuti, which is a more simple way of the Chebyshev thing. But then he followed it up with some algorithms like the Mojo or the Focus. Remember Focus?
Yeah,
and because, which is doing the opposite of what you said. It's a bandpass that uses distortion on the mid-range, and it leaves the low and the highs untouched, but you can reverse it. And also he did the coils one, which is an emulation of transformers, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And finally, capacitor, the second capacitor 2. It has a nonlinear slider that if you take it to all the way to 100, it gives you some interesting coloration and distortion of the sound.
Yeah, because that's a high pass, right?
It's both a low pass and a high pass. You can do both.
Okay.
But you can simply not touch the filter faders and just use the nonlinearity.
Okay. I remember the Mojo because that I made a similar accidentally made a similar it's a sort of a transfer curve that distorts in a really nice way. And when I checked the code for Mojo, I'd made a similar one.
Oh, nice.
But mine aliases quite heavily, but got some more adjustment to it, but yeah, it's not. I didn't find it super useful. It was fun to do, but moving on. Remember this one?
Yes.
Oh yeah, the EMAs.
How does anyone have any suggestions for making usable curves, because what happens is, hang on, spec tone generator. So these needs to be adjusted really, really weirdly, and I've made what are they called when you adjust the slider value. This one you move the slider, but the formula does something according to a different formula, and these are going to be interacting on a completely different level. I've done it for like one slider, where one slider produces, you move the slider by a certain amount, and there's an algorithm that changes that value to be useful in the algorithm. But since I'm using multiple ones now, has this been done before? How should I approach this?
I am not sure I understand the problem.
Let's see. Noise.
Is it the case that you have different sliders and you would like a slider to move and control the other sliders?
Yeah, so exactly. So when I move, let's say I want to do a mid cut, that means I'm going to need to move 3 sliders simultaneously and not at the same rate.
I think I see. So perhaps what you would want to do is to not expose these sliders to the user. Well, it depends on how you want to think about this, but perhaps what you want to do is not have these sliders visible to the user. You want to have some other slider that you would move, and then the values of these variables that currently are being controlled by the slider, the value of these variables could be set in the slider section in JSFX. So the value of these variables would be computed based on the actual slider that the user controls. Is this something that is what you're looking for?
Oh, I'm just stuck with this. So there's going to be, so let's say I'm going to make a mid cut. So it's going to be one thing to, you just 2 sliders to change the frequency and then the level of the cut and then the width of the cut. And it's going to be dependent on like moving all 5 of them.
And do you already know how you want these sliders to move? I mean, do you know that I want this to go to the right and I want this to go to the left by half as much? Do you have these concepts already?
Yeah, I've tried it a bit, and I noticed that it's going to be a lot more complex. It's going to be a lot of math involved in it. So I wouldn't say I kind of quit, but I realized I needed to ask for help.
Well, I don't know.
Has this been done before in any other sort of measure? Is there a similar issue? Has anyone solved a similar issue?
Depends on what you are talking about. Do you want to know if there are other plugins where sliders control one another, or if there are other plugins that are doing this sort of adding and subtracting and that have figured out the relationship between the sliders?
Both.
Yeah, so for the first, yes, there are many plugins that control sliders like that. For instance, the Automixer is doing something like that. And I guess another case that comes to mind, because I did the video for the plugin, is Limiter 3 by Toucan. There is a maximizer option where the threshold and the output volume are linked. And yeah, as for the second, I mean, what's the relationship between the sliders and what they should be? That I don't think any other plugin that I know of does anything like this.
Okay. I'll have to rack my brain and and see if I come up with anything.
And in terms of user interface, what do you want to expose to the user? Do you want them to have access to the 5 sliders you have on the screen, and then it's sort of a nerdy plugin that you have to tinker with? Or do you want to just expose 1 or 2 sliders, like with cutoff frequency or type of filter?
Exactly. I want it to be as much as a regular EQ as possible, so that's usable to other people than me who knows the intricacies of this plugin. So that it would be a one knob for the frequency, one knob for the width, and one knob for the level of cut.
Yeah, so in that case, I do recommend that you go with a different approach. Get rid of these sliders, create sliders for the things you want people to have control over, for the things you mentioned, like the frequency and the bandwidth. And then in your slider section in JSFX, compute based on the actual sliders, frequency and bandwidth and so on, compute the values for plus number 1, plus number 2, plus number 3, minus number 1, minus number 2. And then you can use those values that have been derived from the sliders.
Okay.
And then the tricky part is figuring out the formulas for this, but I guess you could come up with something relatively usable by trial and error.
Yeah, I've done it before with fudge. So I usually use Desmos. I plot up a curve. So this is the formula I came up with, but for fudge, in order to so the cutoff in order to get the flat frequency response for the cutoff, and then for the boost or cut, this is the formula that can. But that's one slider controlling one value, or two. It's one slider controlling 2 values. This is going to be like 3 sliders controlling 5 different values. So it's a different level of complexity.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I guess I just happen to dig into it and start doing the math.
I think it's going to be a fun exploration. I'm looking forward to seeing the results.
Oh, cool. Well, that was me.
All right, then. Thanks for the update.
Thanks so much.
Interesting stuff.
Thanks
and
for it.
like
Cool.
me, you're managing to avoid C++. Good for you.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, next one.
Yeah. Fotis or Cwits? Who wants to go?
Okay, I guess it's gonna be me, right?
Yes. Take it away.
Cwits has his microphone muted.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Take it away, Fotis.
Okay, so I have some notes here. First of all, like I said, I'm sorry, I'm gonna share my screen. 1 second. With computer sounds, and boom. So, first of all, like I said in the Discord, HISE recently got a new version, a new stable version, that is. But instead of using that, I am still using the latest developed branch, almost latest. That is because they had a new update 5 hours ago, but I did this one because I want to stay ahead of the curve, and also because there were some bug fixes here. This one that says it fixed some issues with script node and CC message processing, because I wanted, in the previous meeting, I made an XY pod and I wanted it to respond to a CC messages. But I failed what I wanted to do to make the CC messages adjust the volume of the samplers. And I was hoping that this would fix it, but it's not a bug. It's a problem of mine. So it was I still don't know how to do it. I messaged David Healy about it on his Patreon, and I failed again because I accidentally sent him a paste bin, which is awaiting moderation. The HISE snippet, I had to put it on paste bin, but they have a new feature that apparently moderates the text that you input in and text paste bin. So David couldn't read it. So instead, I sent him the TXT file via WeTransfer, and now I'm waiting.
That's fascinating. They used to be super permissive about this. That's why people would use Pastebin for leaking private people's data and that sort of thing. It's fascinating that now they are trying to cut on this.
Yeah, unless I used the wrong setting, I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, people were using Pastebin for malicious purposes, so maybe that's why they did it. Anyway. So yeah, I built and one more thing, I said in the previous meeting that it is possible to build HISE using Visual Studio 2022, but Christoph Hart, the creator of HISE, advises against it on a recent forum post because it's still, the implementation isn't ready yet. It still crashes a lot when you build it. And so he recommends that you stay on the Visual Studio 2017. So I did, and I built the almost latest of these.
Can you keep multiple versions of Visual Studio installed at once, or do you have to uninstall one and install the other?
No, I don't think you can. And even if I could, I'd have to open up a lot of free space.
I've had both 2019 and 2021 installed.
I guess it's possible.
Yeah, but they open weirdly and it behaves weirdly. So
okay. Did you notice something? It doesn't say release, it says release with Faust. And this is the thing I'm gonna show you. Instead of that XY pad, I failed to do it. So instead, I'm gonna show you something I succeeded. HISE has a preliminary, rudimentary, what's the word? First implementation of the Faust language, which can be used to create synths and effects. This is a template created by David Healy. It's a simple synth because I was too lazy to create another synth from scratch, and David's template fits the bill because I wanted to experiment with effects. Pretty simple stuff. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you're interested, I can give you a mini tutorial on how to implement Faust. It's gonna be quick. So first, you have to go to the Faust Git. This is the one. And you install the latest version from here. It's cross-platform, as you can see. And when you go to the producer, before you start loading the HISE project, I'm gonna show it. Let's go to the producer. So no. So yeah, if you go here, where was it? You have to, there it is. You have to make sure that it's looking for Faust in the correct path. In this case, it's C program files /Faust/lib. And then when you build it in 2017, right? It gives you an option to, when you see, you can see it here. I don't have to open Visual Studio. You have 4 options this time: debug, release, debug with Faust, release with Faust. I used this one. And when you load HISE, you can see here that it says Faust enabled. So now, if you want to make sure that you did it correctly, go to the thing that you built, and you'll notice that the Faust.dll has been automatically copied to the folder that you built HISE in. Now, let's see. I did a couple of experiments with the script node. This is my very first script node thing. Yay! So first, let's go without Faust. Let's see the other things that I did. This is the regular interface. I didn't change it at all. I just added this knob, and I'll show you what it does. So the first effect that I added, it's not moving. Oh, you have to enable it. Oh, that's nice. So this is a sample and hold. I created a macro here. So the more you change it, so now it's almost inaudible. And this one is a HISE filter that changes the stereo effect.
That is not going to translate well here on Skype.
Oh, yeah, sorry. But if you, I did this macro just because I wanted to figure out how the knobs work. And so you can change both parameters with a macro, and also you can create a knob on the interface. And so I can do some interesting stuff here. And this is the knob, the global effects knob. So now we hear no effects at all. I forget what this mix knob is. I think it's oscillators. I'm gonna check it out later. Anyway, so let's go to the Faust one. I didn't create any knobs for it because I wasn't even sure if it was gonna work. So before we get into it, I wanna show you how Faust works exactly.
These other effects like the sample and hold, did you write them or did you get them as part of HISE?
They are inside here.
Okay, they come with the framework.
Look at that. Oh my God. Look at that. It's got tons of stuff, right? It's even got math, and hey, there's tan H. So it's everywhere. Yeah. So, and one of these is Faust.core. If I'm not mistaken, that's what it's called. So to go to, I forget the folder again. Let's look for DSP. So to run a Faust file, you need a .dsp file and the .lib file. Lib, of course, stands for library. And let's go to the reverb, the one that I used. The one that I used first is yet another implementation of Freeverb, the most famous open source reverb. And it's included in the standard faust.lib. To be safe, I just copied, let's go to the folder of my project. I just copied all the Faust libraries that I have. There are some separate that you can download via GitHub, so I placed them all in here because they have dependencies. And I loaded Freeverb. Then you can go here and you can click import file into project. And if you haven't copied Freeverb into your project folder, you can just browse to this folder, and then it's gonna automatically copy it here. Same with the library thing. And then you can press the refresh button, and it's gonna recompile the code as you saw, and it's gonna show you the parameters. So let's listen to the Freeverb and turn off these horrible things. So yeah, it works. One thing to note, this is a very nice tutorial. I'm gonna send the link at the end, and we can add it in the study notes. One thing to note, sorry about that. Some people are cheering. There is a basketball court next to my place.
Great job, Fotis!
Yeah, thanks. HISE. So for the time being, you can only use effects and not synths yet. And what it means monophonic, it means that you cannot use stereo effects. I did try some stereo effects and it gave me an error message. So this reverb is entirely mono. But if I use
They
harsh,
say monophonic when they want to say mono?
yeah, they want to say mono. That gave me a slight confusion because I was thinking, well, what, they're polyphonic effects?
Yeah.
If I go stereo spread, it still sounds stereo. I don't know. Maybe it's relating to the inputs. I mean, maybe it gets a monophonic input, a mono input, and it gives you a stereo output. I think it doesn't support stereo inputs. I don't know. Anyway, so that's cool. And the other thing I want to show, and this is the very slight bit of coding that I actually did today. We have the Oberheim low-pass filter. There was also the Moog low-pass you can use, but HISE already has an implementation of that. So let's see it here. The problem I encountered with this is the untouched one, is that when I loaded it, it actually created an oscillator, a sawtooth or noise oscillator that you can choose. So it gives you like a synth note that goes forever, like that glitch I had. Well, funnily enough, that glitch with that note that was stuck did happen to me again, but it was fixed when I restarted my computer. It's still weird. I don't know what is causing that.
Crazy.
But anyway, yeah. So when I loaded this, I had this that annoying sound. I'm not gonna reproduce that to save you guys, but so I did some slight hacking. I removed some code that still counts as coding, right?
Yes,
So
my favorite
this-
kind of coding is when you get to delete a lot of code.
Yeah. So I'm gonna show you the differences. Wait. Oh yeah, that's the difference. This is the original. This is my edit. So what I did was I simply removed this word input signal.
Mhm.
How should I call it? A variable?
I suppose.
Is it a variable or
Yeah.
a constant? Whatever. I removed it, so all it does is just process the incoming audio, because if you go to Freeverb, it doesn't have the input signal. So I said, what happens if I remove that? And it worked. So if
Great
I go
insight. I guess it was generating some kind of test noise for
yeah,
you to run the thing without any producer of audio.
exactly. So now if you go here, so now we have an implementation of the Oberheim low-pass filter in Faust, in HIC, in JUCE, in C++. So it's a thing on top of a thing on top of a thing. But yeah, this is my thing. This is what I managed to do.
Can we look at the Faust
And-
code again?
Yes.
Because I
The
would
one
like
I
to try and
edited.
make sense of what we see. I mean, most of the juicy parts, juicy.
if you
Most
want,
of the juicy parts
juicy.
are in the library, but we could still try and make sense of what was there on the text editor.
Yeah, if you want, I can show it in Notepad++ because it has a dark mode. So you declare the name. This is description and the author. I guess that the actual filter or something like that is inside the library.
Yeah, for sure.
And
When
this
it says
is,
on line 13 VE dot something, that must be part of the library because we never declared any VE and we never declared the filter itself.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
guess I
declaring a
should
couple
delete this one as well.
sliders. I assume that it's the name of the on line 7, for instance, it's the name of the slider, then probably the default value, minimum, maximum, and step. And then
Okay, and the funny thing is that there was another slider here. I just saw that. If you hold the Alt key, you can see this alternate visualization. That's cool.
yeah, nice.
But yeah, when in the original code, like I said, I had this input signal, and there was a third knob, which is this one, the saw noise. So when I removed it, the knob disappeared, which is, it seems that it's not working with the input signal, so it automatically deprecates it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess line 11 is not being used for anything because it's declaring input signal which is not used anywhere. So I suppose you would be able to delete this line and not affect the results. But line 8 has something fascinating there. And it's very sneaky, but it's there. So it declares a slider. So frequency is the label of the slider. 0.5 is the default value. It goes from 0 to 1 in steps of 0.001. But then column, which I guess in false probably means pipe, which is just take the value out of the age slider and pass it through the function called si.smooth. And I assume, I don't know any false, okay? I don't know any of this. But it seems like it's taking the value of the slider and then passing it through this si smooth function, which must be for smoothing. So that when you change the frequency very fast, it's going to smooth out that change. And then norm freak is going to be, I guess, smoothed over time. And that is fascinating that this exists as a simple, I guess you use 6 characters to smooth out a parameter. That's super nice.
Oh yeah, that is exactly what Chris from Air Windows did to his XYZ filters. He created a second version with parameter smoothing because when in the original filters, if you moved the sliders too fast, you could hear some zipper noise, some. So he did this smoothing, which takes up some more CPU, but it's more friendly for automation and stuff like that.
Yeah, particularly with filters, it is kind of CPU intensive. Not by much. We are talking about percentage, lower percentages of CPU, like 0.1% CPU. But still, if you smooth out the parameter, you're requiring more computations of the filter coefficients, which is going to be a bit slower. But it's so nice that the smoothing works like this in Faust. And then line 13 is also interesting because it seems like process is a function and you are defining the function by the means of combining other functions. So when they say that this is functional programming, it really is getting deep in. It looks to me as something that is point free, which is crazy. If you all are interested in the nitty-gritty of functional programming, do some research on point free functional programming. It is a way of programming in which you are just combining the functions and not ever really touching the values that the function is going to act on. It is crazy stuff, and the syntax for this is a bit crazy. So perhaps that's why it's like less than column, underscore, comma, underscore, which is kind of nonsensical when you don't know what's happening, but super interesting.
And want to see the craziest part,
Sorry for interjecting here. I started the Faust class that's on the Karma University, and it was a bit boring, so I quit. But the underscore and the comma, that's actually left and right channel.
Oh, so this is what I want to show.
And you mentioned the colon earlier, Leandro, and I don't remember what that was, but it was. And it was another reason why I sort of quit the class they was reinventing a lot of terminology, and it was so backwards from JSFX, so it made my head hurt too.
Yeah, in fact, this cuts back to the history of programming languages way back, because the JSFX programming language kind of comes from the lineage of C. And Faust is coming from the lineage of functional programming languages. They are equivalent in the sense that anything you can compute in one, you can compute in the other, and with enough effort, you can translate any Faust program into JSFX and vice versa. But when it comes to like the mindset, it is very different. In languages like C and JSFX, you sort of think in the von Neumann paradigm. You have values, you have variables, you have, I guess, CPU registers, and you manipulate with them with operations and whatnot. In this style of functional programming, you don't necessarily want to think about the values. You want to think about the transformations, the computations you would do on the values. And the computations themselves can be rearranged. So I keep complaining that in JSFX there is no notion of higher order function, which would simplify a lot of code. And in this case, I guess you would have nothing but higher order functions, where functions themselves can be passed as arguments to functions, or can be returned from functions, or can be put into data structures and whatnot. It is crazy to think about audio like this if you're not used to it. But it also makes a lot of sense, because we tend to reason about digital signal processing as a bunch of boxes connected with wires. And the boxes are functions, and the wires are these weird operators like column. So it is a different mindset, but once you get into it, it can make sense as well. But it's not for everyone. The mainstream is C, C++, JSFX.
Yeah, and they actually had. They actually had for you do the programming, the coding in a web browser. And there's a function where you press a button and all the code is visualized as boxes and wires in between them, which is really, really, really helpful. But
that's what I want to show now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. But I
sent
the
I
link
button, and you
way
press
earlier.
It,
yeah.
And there it is.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That was really useful.
Oh, that was the monophonic input, the mono input, sorry, and the stereo output. And yeah,
so that was the less than signal. I think I know what it was doing. The less than signal was splitting the signal. So you sort of read that symbol as the splitting that happens right after this box.
Oh, it splits.
It's splitting that signal, and then it is piping the outputs. I guess column is the wire, so it's piping the outputs to outputs 0 and 1, like left and right, and the comma is just separating this. I think that's how you read this code. It's fascinating. And Tail is here on the YouTube chat.
Whoa.
Hello, Tail.
Oh my, sorry. Hello, Tail.
So Tail is here, and Tail is saying that Faust makes his head hurt. And Nyquist is another language for digital signal processing. I think it's used in like Audacity, for instance, and it is a flavor of Lisp, so it's functional. And maybe functional programming is not for everyone. Anyway.
By the way, when you do this, it's creating a CPP file that has all of this stuff. And also it temporarily creates this folder with 8 SVG files, which is, I guess, the files that we just saw. Is earphone view crashing? Wait, yeah. But if you close it, boom, the SVGs are disappearing. So that's a nice function.
Nice.
Oh, and also it's MIDI compatible. It's gonna be MIDI compatible, I guess, in the future. Maybe this is just a placeholder, but that would be fun to tweak, like in Vital, when you can do key tracking with some filters, and the more upper you go, and in an octave, then the higher that the filter is going to respond to your music. So it would be fun if I could do this with Faust. But first, we need some stereo input. And also, I would like to actually create some oscillators, but it's coming. It's slowly getting there. And like I said, the SVG function didn't come until like yesterday. So we have a long way of going there. And one final thing I want to say. Also, I found, speaking of boring, Bo, I found a 6-hour live stream about Faust, where they are discussing physical modeling synths. But I guess I did a skim through of that, and it made my head hurt. But I am keeping it because I did discuss physical modeling. in my previous meetings. So if the oscillators do get implemented, I would like to try my hand in doing this again. Besides,
6
I
hours,
have a HISE.
Faust, and physical modeling, count me in.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah.
I think there's a 30-minute version someplace of where I think it's one of the founders of Faust talks about the physical modeling. That it's worth watching, definitely.
Okay.
Did you check the? I think it's like 1 or 2 weeks ago. I sent a link on the Discord for the Karma course. If you're interested, Fotis, where you can learn where they talk about, and so there's classes for the Faust coding.
Oh, yeah, I missed that actually. Yeah, I saw the link, but I didn't click. But now I need to watch it. It does have some physical modeling examples. I don't know I don't want to use them. I'm afraid, but they seem interesting. They will have guitars and marimbas and carplus, of course. There's carplus everywhere. Some fun stuff. I guess this is stereo, but yeah, it's worth digging into. And also, like I said, in the GitHub there is a separate Git which has more libraries, and I haven't found any DSP files for these yet, so I cannot test them yet, but it would be nice. They even have some I think that allows you to import presets from the Yamaha DX7 and turn them into Faust, I guess. And if you're familiar with DX7, there is a freeware emulation called Dext, and there are tons of freeware DX7. So if the Faust implementation of synths does get implemented, eventually I'll be able to actually create a Yamaha DX7 inside HISE, which would be hella cool.
Yeah,
that's the thing with Faust. The implementations of the physical model and etc. It sounds really, really good. It's very convincing. So it's worth getting into. But like I mentioned, the language is really backwards to me.
and I guess it is translated to C or C++ before compiling, so it's.
Yeah,
Faust is a domain-specific language that compiles to C++. That's crazy.
So it is very useful, but I like I said, I'm gonna do some other stuff before I.
Do you all know about? Speaking of the DX7, do you all know about FM synthesis, and have you used it before to something that is beyond just looking at presets?
I know the basics. I have done some FM synthesis with the built-in synth of Ableton, which is called Operator. And yeah, I have, and also Bespoke Synth has an FM synth, so I have played with frequency modulations before, and it's fun. The way that you place oscillators and tell them this is gonna modulate this one, or yeah, Operator has a nice visualization of that. I can't show it right now, but
yeah.
What level are you at now, Leandro, with FM synthesis?
I
Do you know
have.
how it works, or
I have opened Dext, the VSC that Fotis was talking about. I played around with the presets. I clicked on the init button on that plugin that just resets all the oscillators. And I said, okay, I'm going to try and make sense of this. And then I couldn't make sense of it. So I am starting to learn about it. And that's why I asked.
Okay, there's some great tutorials on YouTube, that covers the basics of it. And you need to listen to the examples for it. I know the principles, and I know some of it works, but like Fotis said, you control. It gets really complicated really quickly.
Yes.
I think it could be possible theoretically to create an FM synth inside HISE. If I create a synthesizer, I cringe at that. Synthesizer.
Yeah, just to make sure that you saw this, Fotis, here on the chat, Taylor is saying that there is another piece of hardware that has been emulated or simulated in Faust.
Oh, really? Link, please.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, that's my update for today. I'm gonna turn off my screen.
All right.
For the
Cwits,
next,
or do you want to go, Leandro?
Oh yeah.
My update is over. I opened Xcode and then I closed it again. So Cwits, what do you have for us?
Yes.
I start thinking that I'm really not actually fit this group well.
What do you mean?
Because guys, you're speaking a lot of difficult words that I don't understand, and
I just ask.
You are doing difficult stuff that I don't understand. You're way better than me in C++.
We are all different.
See, with you just if there's anything you need to ask, then you need to know, then just ask.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate.
We go off tangents all the time.
First of all, I have to understand what I don't understand yet.
Okay, sure. There's always the Discord if you want to get back to us.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
No worries.
So, did you work on something this week?
Yeah, I'm as always worked on some couple things and then got some improvements. And to be sure, I don't remember all of them because they are tiny and there is a lot of them. But there is couple interesting things, I think. I'm streaming my screen and then.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
I will. So.
Oh.
Now I try to hold camera. Nothing.
All right, we can see that.
Sorry, it's not big resolution because I don't.
No, it looks fine.
But
you should keep it at low resolution, in fact, so it streams.
What
better.
I made, this is coloring of the pads. Is this?
Wow.
Some kind of fancy stuff, and you're pressing that. There's two layouts of this. This is like original, where when all the pads are going straight forward. No duplicate. And the second one is Ableton called isomorphic. This no layout. What's cool about that the three last notes of every row is duplicating. Yeah, as you can see. This makes something similar to the guitar, I suppose. You can play tentative things. So yeah, and of course I can play with colors. There is a lot of different colors.
Sweet.
I'm start thinking that one of the interesting things that will be the changing color every bar. I'm not sure that this will be epileptic safe, yes, but this can be interesting. Also, I've made couple trying to clear my code. Optimize it a little bit. There is those layouts. Original, where all the pads are. Here we can see that last three pads are
What are these numbers that we are looking at?
This is MIDI numbers of the pads.
Oh, I see.
Accordingly. According this file.
Oh, I didn't know Ableton had
Me
a
neither.
GitHub about that.
Really? There is a couple interesting things. In my opinion, they have Ableton link authors.
Oh, yeah, I do know about that, yeah.
So,
But I didn't know they had an entire documentation about the push.
yeah, they've got all documentation. Here is a lot of things. Interact with LEDs, with buttons, LEDs, encoder, and they also there is some samples of code. So they made great work on the push. I think. Great color. Yeah, that all those numbers is same as that's shown here.
And these are MIDI notes. They are like you send a note
Yes.
on or note off to turn the LED on and off.
Yes, yes. To push working on that way only. Okay, okay. Display works through the USB library, but all other things like pads, buttons, LEDs, and encoders, touch straight, working through the MIDI. Different. Yeah. Well, I discovered such interesting thing as a STD map, where you assign anything to anything. So in a map you have the value, actual value, and interesting part for me at least was that value can be anything. Here I have vector side of the value, and then here I'm having callbacks as the value, and
Here are
So-
the high order functions again. A callback is a high order function.
This is a stream of the highest order.
so this helps me a little bit to clean up code and process things a little bit easier. For example, when I'm turning on my push, I'm going through all this map and lighting up buttons that are used in this map. Yes, and all other ones stays dark. Get understanding what. Something like that. I'm always doing things. Oh, also I made the alternative mapping of keys, like when you're pressing two buttons simultaneously. User button happening something. Don't press user button. Happens. I have to make save and load. Yeah, something like that. Any questions? Any?
Well, do you know what you want to do next?
I want to finish this layout thing. That this is not on. This has to be not only fancy lights on the controller, but also some meanings. Has to connect it with the scales and appropriate scale selection process. Also, I want to do floating messages, yes.
Floating messages?
Yeah, like message that appear a couple seconds and
Oh, I see.
appear. Is it called something differently?
No, I guess. I don't think there is a standard term for this. A flash, a model? Not sure.
Flash message. Maybe, why not? And yeah, to keep continued. Lot of.
All right. Sounds good.
Hope that I will not lose my mom.
All right. Anything else from you?
I'm not sure. Like no.
We can't hear you.
Hello?
It's just very quiet,
Hello?
I guess.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah, that's much
Yes.
better. Yeah.
So I have to keep microphone close to my mouth,
Yeah.
or to scream to our neighbors will hear. But I don't want to scream.
Don't scream. All right. Okay. So
Oh yeah.
how about we wrap up now?
Can
Okay,
I have as a question? Are you still working on the Leandro? Are you still working on the library, JSFX library?
Absolutely, yes. I guess that's a good segue.
Yeah, I have some things to say as well, but yeah, please go on.
Did you finish the whole moving average?
No, I did not work on that yet. It is still on the list of things to do.
All right.
It's not necessary for the auto mixer, so I'm not doing it right now.
All right.
So
I really
you have
like
to do it necessary for the auto mixer.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, Cwits, I didn't catch that.
Leandro have to make it necessary for the auto mixer.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to
definitely.
find a way to squeeze it in there. Well, someone asked me for high pass filter, I think, or some kind of filter on the channels going in, which I don't really think makes sense. I don't think it's in my vision for the plugin, but maybe. And then I could work with some filter like the one you had. But yeah, I don't have any kind of filtering in the auto mixer right now.
But the high pass makes sense in this. You cut the rumble like from bouncing into a mic stand or bouncing on the
absolutely.
table
I think it makes sense
Or
to
the
high pass.
DC offset.
Fair. Yeah. No, I think that it makes sense to filter things before putting them into the auto mixer, but I think it may not be the job of the auto mixer to do that. I think that it would have a filter on each track before sending to the auto mixer. But yeah, it is debatable. Someone could complain that then they have to have two plugins instead of one. I don't know. We'll see.
And there's always version 2.0.
Yeah.
So before I could tell you about my homework for next time, I want to post the two links. This is the Faust HISE tutorial that I followed, just so you can add it in the study notes. And also, Leandro, if you're interested, this guy called You Suck at Producing, that's his YouTube name, channel name. He created a very interesting video explaining FM synthesis, but I must warn you that he's using a lot of foul language. It's very not safe for work. I'm not gonna say why. It's a great tutorial, but it's not for kids. That's
Put the
all.
F
I'm gonna
and
leave
the
it at that.
FM.
Yeah. No. I'm not gonna describe it, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Just watch the video with headphones, okay? Don't let anyone listen to it. It's yeah. And anyway, for the next time, I want to. You know that thing with the XY pad, I still want to finish it. And hopefully I'll get back with David Healy and we'll finish this thing, because like I said in the previous video, I used those samples that I recorded from a synth in the school, but it didn't explain why. And I had this whole theory to explain, and I just keep getting pushed back by the software side of things. So when I finally finish that thing, I'm going to explain why I did it. I'm going to leave it in a cliffhanger.
Okay, then.
Awesome.
Okay, so I guess it's time for us to wrap up. Mage is saying FM synthesis makes everyone curse. Yeah, so thank you, Mage, Just, Tail, and everyone else who is watching this. Thank you, Fotis, Bo, and Cwits for joining me here on the meeting. And we'll see another meeting of this group in 2 weeks, on Wednesday, probably. And moving forward, tomorrow I will be working on the thing that I was not working on yesterday. So yesterday I was doing JSFX. So tomorrow I think I will be doing JavaScript and kill the newsletter, or vice versa. I forget. Anyway, we will be doing more JSFX and more JavaScript. And yeah, I think that's it for today. So thank you all very much, and have a good one.
And please support Leandro via Patreon or PayPal.
Yeah.
You forgot.
Go ahead and do that. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.